Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You already know what it is, man. So let's get right to it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Lil Zay Osama. Now, Lil Zay Osama just might have made one of the worst mistakes of his rap career. Now, for those of you who don't know, Lil Zay Osama is a rapper from Chicago. You can classify him a drill rapper. He falls into that category or subgenre, however you want to chop it up. And dude had one of the hottest songs with Lil Durk this summer, man. It was dropped towards the end of the summer, and that song just took off, man. It was a nice feature and a nice gift from Lil Durk to Lil Zay Osama. It's got his name buzzing out here. And it looks like he was in New York to work on some music. But it looks like he's being accused of having a gun with a switch on it in one of the worst states to ever get caught with a gun, in one of the worst cities to ever get caught with a gun, and that being New York City, man. Now, before we break down this story and get to the details, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and man, let's get it. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, man, let's talk about Lil Zay Osama. Now, I'll be referencing this story from the New York Daily News there, man. And in the story, the headline says this. It says, rapper Lil Zay Osama busted in Queens for leaving a tricked out Glock in an Uber. So somehow, they're saying that Lil Zay Osama left a Glock with a switch on it in an Uber. And remember, they classify any weapon that's been altered with a switch to be a machine gun. Machine guns are illegal. You talking about time on top of time on top of time. But man, let's get to the story. Now, the story starts off by saying this. It says an up-and-coming rapper was arrested in Queens after he left a gun on a seat in an Uber ride, federal authorities said on Friday. So this took place today. So this is breaking news like no other, right? And you probably heard in that first line that the feds are already involved because of the type of weapon it is. This is going to he might be looking at some federal charges. It ain't even might. It looks like he's going to be facing some federal time if found guilty, right? Now, the story continues by saying this. It says Isaiah Dukes, who performs under the name Lil Zay Osama, and several associates took an Uber from Manhattan Hotel to a recording studio in Queens on Thursday. So it looks like they were going to the recording studio, doing what rappers do. They went from a Manhattan hotel all the way to the Queens recording studio, and they probably thought that they needed to protect themselves or something. I mean, that's all that I could assume at this time. Or why else would they have a weapon on them? You know what I mean? Now, federal prosecutors are saying that that was the issue, man, that they were pretty much traveling in a group and, going from one spot to the other. And that's when things went awry, man, in the Uber ride. Now, it continues by saying this. It says, during the ride, the driver noticed Dukes, 25 years old, handling the gun in the back seat, according to the criminal complaint. Now, this is wild. Like, you could be sitting in an Uber, and your Uber driver, they watching everything, man, and he's looking, and he basically was able to say, he saw Dukes, Lil Zay Osama, handling the weapon in the back seat. So when he turned them over, he pretty much rolled over on Lil Zay Osama immediately, man. So when you're in the back seat of that Uber, you ain't got no continuity or anything with that Uber driver, man. If anything goes awry, they are definitely going to call the police immediately because that's their job. They don't want to get fired. Now, it also says when the passengers got out, Dukes allegedly left behind a .40 caliber Glock pistol. And I'm assuming they're basing this off of the testimony that they received, or at least the report that they received from the driver when he got in touch with law enforcement. Now, the story continues by saying this. It says the driver notified law enforcement who met him at a drop-off point a short time later. He identified the passengers and Dukes, a convicted felon who served time in jail on a weapons possession charge and was arrested, authorities said. So basically, the driver already knew in his mind when he saw that weapon that, he was going to get in contact with the police and he was going to set up a spot to where he could drop off the gun because he didn't want to be caught with it either. You got to remember, this is New York City, very strict gun laws, and he doesn't want to be in a bad predicament. And he gave up the goods on who he thought had the weapon at that time, right? Now, it also says this. It says investigators who examined and field tested the firearm learned later that it was modified with a switch device that allowed it to function like a machine gun. Remember, modifying the gun so that it's an automatic with a switch or whatnot is highly illegal. You know what I'm saying? In most places, I think in all, to be real with you. And once it's classified as machine gun, you're not allowed to have a machine gun, and you're going to be looking at a lot of time, especially with this being a Fed case. Now, it continues by saying firing more than one round with a single trigger pull is what the weapon can basically do. Prosecutors said the gun has the capability of firing until the trigger is lifted. So basically saying that it'll fire until you run out of ammo as long as your finger is on the trigger. Now, a lot of people talk in their raps about having switches and things like that. The Chicago rappers, they play a whole different game, especially when it comes to the drill scene and things like that. So they might think that they need an extra layer of protection, and maybe that's why they have these such weapons. Now, I'm not trying to excuse any bad behavior, and I am definitely not telling anybody to go out there and do that. This was a dumb mistake for anybody to make. But man, I see where this could be a complicated situation, or somebody could be living out their raps when they really shouldn't, man. They should be focusing on rap or whatnot. But let's continue. Now, officers also determined that the gun had 1 round in the chamber and 9 rounds in the magazine. Now, it goes on to say this, and this is from the U.S. State's attorney there, that works with the feds or whatnot, right? And in quotes, it says the defendant poses a danger to the community based on the possession of a particularly dangerous firearm. Dukes was charged with possession of a machine gun and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Now, we already know being in possession of a firearm anyways in New York City is, man, you looking at a lot of time, man. They don't play. Lil Wayne, I don't care how big you are as a rapper, man. They don't care about none of that. So, man, Lil Zay Osama is going to have a fight on his hands. Now, it goes on to say this. It says, Lil Zay Osama's familiarity with guns was not limited to his prior conviction. The rapper can be seen in various YouTube videos brandishing what appears to be weapons and rapping about violence and guns in details. Now, in his bigger songs that I've seen lately, I haven't seen him brandishing any sorts of weapons or anything like that. Now, federal authorities said there were already 2 outstanding warrants for Duke's arrest issued by 2 different jurisdictions. They also talk about different references that he made to 50-round magazines and things of that nature. I don't know why that's relevant in this story, because when they found the gun, they didn't have a 50-round clip in it, so it is what it is. Now, he already has several felony and misdemeanor convictions, including robbery, battery, and a firearm discharge. At 16, the Chicago native was sentenced to 5 years in juvenile detention center. So they're talking about basically that, Lil Zay Osama was in the streets. The biggest thing on my part that I think when I read this story is, man, he's fumbling the bag, because he's hotter right now than he's ever been. And I'm pretty sure he knows that, Now, Lil Zay Osama has also seen the other end of the gun, authorities said. He reportedly survived a 2015 shooting during which he was wounded in the chest. He was arrested on gun charges while he was in the hospital still. So it looks like even in the situation he got in 2015 where he was shot, they're saying that he was arrested in that too. Now, what's crazy is they're going to use his rap sheet because it's already out there, obviously based on these stories and things. But it looks like Lil Zay Osama, man's got a fight on his hands. But what do y'all think about this, man? Hottest song in his career. Really getting a lot of good looks right now. Did Lil Zay Osama fumble the bag, or is it a possibility this might be some sort of mistake, and we'll just see how it works out in the end? Now, with that, this has been your boy Big Man. Do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you get a notification every time I drop this hot content, and we out of here. Peace.